unexpected to a degree. Even the Bureau of Meteorology didn't predict the amount of rain that actually came into our area. So it was a total surprise. People were caught unawares. The creeks overflowed very, very quickly. The rivers, actually some of them opened themselves.
Yeah, look, East Coast lows are typically associated with higher sea levels, larger swells and significant rainfall. So that's what we expect when we're advised by the BOM, Bureau of Meteorology, that that weather pattern is coming. So in this instance we were also mindful that we were likely to get significant rain and higher seas.
The forecasted or predicted rainfall was exceeded by about double, so most of our areas received 300 mils to 400 and some over 400 millimetres in that 48-hour period, so about double what was predicted. At the Tuesday, the staff were getting increasingly concerned about the weather conditions, and we held 2 incident team meetings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, really just to review what was happening within councils and council operations. At that stage we had some road closures already happening. We had quite a number of our sewage pumping stations impacted by flooding through the Tuesday. So we had a number of staff from engineering, from Shoalhaven Water, from our flood engineers and media, of course, which was important to keep getting messages out to the media of what was happening.
So on the Tuesday, by Tuesday lunchtime, we had 45 road closures in place from areas in Shoalhaven Heads right through to areas down in Lake Conjola, and then later in the afternoon actually in Burra Lake and moving into St George's Basin and Sussex Inlet.
The EOC opened late on Tuesday afternoon. Our Director of Assets and Works and myself actually called the Leocon late on the Tuesday, spoke to him what was happening, and he advised us that he'd been in touch with the SES most of the day, and they'd just decided that things were deteriorating to such an extent that the EOC had to open on the Tuesday evening.
We have adopted entrance management policies adopted by Council. Now you need to appreciate that these policies are endorsed by the state government. They go through a process of consultation with community representatives. They are based on flood studies and expert opinion from Council's own flood engineers, and they go on public exhibition. In other words, we have a plan, we have a document which is endorsed through that process, which includes triggers, thresholds, water levels that when they are reached, we take a certain course of action. Now, with respect to Lake Conjola, on the Monday, as indicated, the rainfall forecast the rainfall event was much heavier than forecast. So we anticipated that on the Tuesday morning, early on Tuesday morning around 7:30, the trigger level in the adopted policy, which is for emergency openings in Lake Conjola, is 1.2 metres AHD at the entrance. We anticipated that the lake level would be reaching that at about 7:30 in the morning. So we had staff on site prior to 7:30. We had machinery on standby. And when we went there, we observed that the lake had actually naturally breached the sandburn itself. So we didn't have to take mechanical intervention. The process had worked naturally. As it approached that 1.2 metre trigger, the lake opened and the water started to flow through a natural canal. So when you look and think about the situation at Lake Conjola, you've got a major catchment with a lot of water running into the lake. You have a relatively small canal that's been opened. You have a high sea that acts as a counterforce, and essentially there's more water coming in than going out, and the flooding continues. Opening the entrance at Lake Conjola, or indeed most waterways, does not stop the flooding. At best, it reduces the impact in low-level events, but as the event increases, i.e. more rainfall, more major flooding event, it has minimal effect. The dredging was never intended to have a significant impact on flood levels. As I've said, it simply doesn't eliminate the flooding that occurs. The objectives of the dredging at Lake Conjola were primarily about creating a channel between Kunjerong Point boat ramp and the lake for recreational navigational purposes, as well as improving the efficiency and circulation of the entrance opening, improving the tidal exchange, enabling the entrance to stay open for a longer period. That's what it's about. As I said, it was never intended to significantly impact on flooding. It simply won't do that.
Well, Wednesday, the flooding was really in full scale at that stage because the Shoalhaven River was rapidly rising. It was impacting on a number of roads on the floodplain and into Shoalhaven Heads village, and staff were monitoring those road conditions throughout the day, making sure that the public were kept safe and out of floodwaters.
The road closures are there really for the protection of the motorists, and we had a number of flood rescues. There was 46 in all across the Shoalhaven, and a number of times I was at the emergency centre where we're going out to road closures, and at the same time people would drive past us. So road closure signs were a big issue. As I said, there was 45 closed roads on Tuesday at lunchtime. By Wednesday we probably had got up to about 50 or 60 roads closed, and we had at some certain locations in Sussex Inlet we had police manning these road closed areas. They were warning people they couldn't drive around the signs, and people intended to and did drive into the water. Not only did they end up with their cars flooded, they also ended up with a ticket.
On Tuesday we had no flood watch or flood warning from the BOM, and in the afternoon we contacted them and we expressed our concern about the rising levels in the river, and we asked them to keep us updated all through the night and the next morning, because we were concerned that the river would continue to rise. At about 8:30 at night they gave us the first flood warning for the Shoalhaven River, but they did not indicate that the 2.5 metre AHD trigger and narrow bridge would be exceeded. It wasn't until the early hours of Wednesday morning that we started to get that sort of information from them, that in fact those trigger levels would be exceeded, and we then would have to put in place the mechanical opening procedure.
But the morning of the Wednesday actually coincided with with the high tide and high seas at the same time, and it was really deemed as unsafe to put an operator in a machine on the sand to do an opening at that stage. So during the morning, as the tide was dropping, the river level was still increasing on the Shoalhaven Heads side, but mid-morning a decision was made that it was safe to get an operator in, and that's what happened a little after midday.
As I said, you've got to be very careful about when and how you do it. If the sea level is too high, if the swell is too great, you can exacerbate the situation. You can actually, the counter force of the sea can actually push the river levels higher. So you have to be very careful about the exact time. That's why we have these predetermined levels, so we are aware that we have sufficient volume of water in the river so that it's likely to actually work when it's breached, but we do have to make this judgment of looking at the seas about whether it's safe and whether it's actually going to work at that particular time. Well, the other main key consideration is that we have these adopted management plans, entrance management plans, and we have a set protocol that we need to follow. The last thing we need is panicked decision making in a time of crisis. That can lead to devastating impacts. So we have a process, we have an adopted plan, and we need to follow that.
Look, I think council staff responded very professionally. They've done everything that I could see that was necessary in following the triggers and the guidance provided by the entrance management plans, by council's previous experience and its operations. We had people on call and actually monitoring the BOM side throughout the Tuesday night, and they were really ready to do works on the Wednesday when required. As with all of these events, weather conditions really dictate when you can do an opening safely, and look, the staff have to make those judgments, and I back them in what they do.
Yeah, so throughout the Shoalhaven, the damage bill within 3 days was up over $700,000. So if you think around playgrounds, all the softball underneath the playgrounds have been washed out. The amenities, there was a dozen amenities, the water was well over their roofs, so we had to go in and clean those out, and there was silt through a number of areas. Very much like the households that have been having to go through a lot of clean-up, so has council, and in particular parks, roads and drainage structures have been impacted heavily. We're working through those issues, but we'll be here 18 months from now, still rebuilding roads.
And I have to compliment again council staff for getting out and about. I know the road from Culburra Beach, which was absolutely potholed, has almost been fixed with all the potholes. So congratulations, they're doing a great job.
As far as free waste tipping, there was really a lot of feedback from the community, and the Mayor and councillors really got on board to say where can we help, and we initially opened up all of our depots for an extended period of time and allowed free tipping. We're also supported by the state government, who've waived the waste levy for any flood-related waste, and we've had thousands of transactions and hundreds of tonnes of waste material being delivered to our waste depot.
A lot of the flood damaged goods were very smelly. Some of the people had sewage in their backyards that had to be cleaned up, as you appreciate. Once the flood got to a certain point, the sewage had to go somewhere, so that was some of the cases. There's still some water floating around, but I think our staff did an extraordinary job.
The positives are that you always learn. We are now going back to our Natural Resource and Floodplain Committee. We will be reviewing what happened. We have applied for a grant to do additional flood study on the lower Shoalhaven. We will be collecting the data that we gain through the event. We will be talking to the community. We will be reviewing what we've got in the plan and saying, can we do it better? So you always learn something. Every flood is different, and if we can improve the situation, we will.